Okay. Hi guys, welcome to the event. So we've done this previously a few times before about with the Centra Consultants. So basically the event is about going through the basics of accounting for locum, and if you're self-employed as well. Imran's going to go through some basics first, and then basically we're going to open up the floor to you guys if you have any questions, if you have anything to ask. I know we normally get some usual questions around working as a locum and how to set up a limited company and things like that, and expenses as well. So Imran will go through all of those first, and then if there's any specific questions, we can look at them later on as well. Imran, do you want to make a start?
Yeah, so I'm Imran from Centra Consultants. I'm the general manager here. We've got 3 full-time accountants who do all the accountancy side. My job is to liaise with all the clients, mostly the locums. Normally when a locum is looking to sign up, the first question is always, should it be as a sole trader or should it be as a limited company? For locums, it's a lot more simpler than it would be for most other trades, like an electrician or somebody that's looking to start an Amazon, eBay business or a restaurant. It's a lot more simpler for locums because of your low overheads with high day rates. Anybody that's looking to do it full time, 100% is better to do it through a limited company. And the numbers speak for themselves. So typically locums at the moment in a 12-month period are looking to earn at least £50,000. Anything less than 50, you would have just been better off being employed. So every locum that comes on board, they're looking to do at least 50,000 in the next 12 months. If you did that as a sole trader, you're looking at a tax bill, same as what it would be when you're employed, of around £15,000 to £16,000, depending on your expenses. If you do it through a limited company, you're looking at a tax bill of around £5,000 to £6,000. So it's a good £10,000, £11,000 difference at the end of the year. So next year, it's like, would you rather be paying a tax bill of 16 or a tax bill of 5 to 6? So really for locums, it's not really a debate, unless you say, I'm looking to be employed for 2 days, 3 days a week with one of the multiples, and I'm only looking to locum 1, 2, 3, 4 days a week. Then maybe you'd have to look into the numbers and work out which is the best. But generally speaking, it's limited company for any locum that's looking to do it full time.
Okay. In terms of the salary wise, at what point would it be better to go from a say a sole trader type setup to a limited company?
Yeah, so anything for us, basically the number is based on what the charges and accountancy charges. So anybody that's charging double, triple of what we're charging, then it would be a lot higher, that break point. Anybody that's charging less than us, then it would be lower. But for us, it's 18,000. At 18,000, we can justify and save you money through a limited company over sole trader. If you're doing less than, if you're doing 16, 15, 12,000 a year, so you're literally just doing it a couple of days a month, then you're better off being a sole trader. But at 18,000, it's not a great amount. We're probably saving you over a sole trader somewhere between £500 and £1,000 at 18,000. But then after that, the more you earn, the greater the savings. So at £30,000, we save you about £2,000. At 40,000, we're saving you about £4,000 or £5,000, and then at 50,000, we're saving you more like 10,000, 11,000.
Jack, please mute mics. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so just to repeat, for us, it's 18,000. At 18,000, it's better to be a limited company than it would be a sole trader.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so some companies like Lloyds Farms do not transfer money to limited company accounts. So what are the options? So I think this is more to do with the
IR35
issue, where Lloyds and a number of the companies don't directly deal with limited companies. So a lot of pharmacies have been working as a sole trader. Well, they've been taking money to personal account and transferring it back to the business account.
Yeah, well, they're not allowed to do that. Basically, when Lloyd's, it's only Lloyd's, Asda, and Superdrug. If you do any shifts for them, they're basically classing you as a sole trader. So you can't then take the money from your personal account, put it into your business account, and then try to act like it was they paid you into your limited company. They didn't. They paid you as a sole trader. So literally, the two options are: you either don't work for them because you literally can work for Boots, Wells, Roland's, Pharmacy to You, Tesco, like all the other pharmacies, and any independents are exempt from IR35. You can work for any independent you want. So one option is don't work for them. The other option is you do work for them, but you limit it though. So we would say less than 25%, it would still work out. Because like I said before, at £50,000, as a sole trader, your tax bill is £16,000 on average for a locum. And as through a limited company, it's £5,000 to £6,000 on average for a locum. So the more you work for Asda, Lloyd's, or Superdrug, the higher the closer you'll get to that 16,000. So as an extreme example, you form the limited company and you don't do any shifts through that limited company because you only work for Lloyd's, then expect your tax bill next year to be £16,000. On the flip side, you form the limited company and you only work for all the other pharmacies apart from Asda, Lloyd's, and Superdrug, then expect your tax bill.
I think Superdrug has moved over to locator locum now, so it's mainly the ones that are on Venlock. So I think that's at the moment Asda and Lloyd's. I'm not sure if there's anyone else, but it is mainly the Venlock. I think Nish, he said he's getting paid into limited company. Nish, could you clarify? Are you registered as have you been locuming for them for a while, or?
Yes. Yeah, hold on. I'll just come on. Yeah, so I only started 2 weeks ago as a locum. I was an area manager for Superdrug and just left a couple of weeks ago. I've done some shifts and I set up as a limited company 2 weeks ago, and they've paid me into that account. So Superdrug, I think it's when you register with Venlock, I know Lloyd's have said specifically they won't allow. So I think it's the Venlock ones that won't allow you. That won't pay into business accounts or limited company accounts. The others do.
Okay. Because at one point, I think Superdrug was following the same procedure as the Lloyd's and not paying into limited companies. But they've changed now, so that's fine. So yeah.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah. So the question is, if you have a full-time job, so this is by Munaib Bhuta, full-time job that put you into the higher tax bracket and also want to locum, what's the most tax efficient method? Method sole trader or limited company?
If you're working full-time, then because you can't have a payroll through the limited company, you are just better off doing it as a sole trader.
Okay. So next question, can you locum as a limited company and sole trader for Venlock companies based on different companies?
You can.
Okay. How long does it take to set a limited company, and what are the setup costs?
The setup cost is £12, and usually within 24 hours we'll have a company formed.
Okay. I've started locuming. At what point do I need to start looking for an accountant? At the moment, I'm not even registered as self-employed yet.
Ideally, it would have been before your first shift to make sure you are tax efficient and compliant. Legally, like within the first 3 months, it's ideal to be set up just so you're not at the end of the year going to pay thousands of pounds extra in tax than you needed to.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've kind of asked all the newly qualifieds or those looking to just come into locuming that if you're going to go into locuming and it's something that you're going to be doing full time, please do try and register and get yourself an accountant first, get your advice. I mean, it doesn't cost you to speak to an accountant. And a lot of the people have this idea that you have to pay them straight away and it's going to cost an arm and a leg. But to be honest, I think, how much you guys charge? Is it $6.95 or
$659?
$659.
And then plus that £12. It's 60 days free. So you've basically got 60 days to see how the service is. We'll do 2 months payroll in that time. If after 60 days they want to leave, They only owe the £12, which we've paid on their behalf to Companies House to form the company. They've basically got 2 months of service for free, questions, payroll.
Okay.
That's it. Happy to transfer their stuff to another accountant.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so there you go. It's free to try. And our price is like it's not costing you anything. So if you're going into locum, or if you're thinking of going to locuming, speak to an accountant first, speak to the Centra guys, and they'll give you free advice. I think they've got about almost 200 locums from our network that are registered with them at the moment. So, they are very well trusted. Is there any differences for Scotland? I'm assuming it'd be the same UK-wide.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay. Where are you based? Is in Manchester. But to be honest, I get a lot of questions like this. Where can we have an accountant who's close to like in Manchester or Birmingham or London? To be honest, it doesn't make a difference where they're based. The work is done exactly the same way by everyone. I know a lot of people want to go see their accountant, but I've been with my previous accountant for about 15 years, and I've only gone to see him twice, and I didn't really need to.
Now, we've never seen a locum in all these years. We've never requested a locum to come in. Everything was done remotely, even before COVID.
Yeah, and to be honest, any documents can be signed online nowadays anyway. So
yeah,
you really, what you want to do is look for someone who's reliable, who can do the job at a reasonable price, and that can give you good advice. So,
and who you can get hold of.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. For them to email us and get a response, or WhatsApp us and get a response. That's what we find locums are more interested in than having to spend a whole day coming down and losing a day's rate, £350, £400, just to spend an hour sat down talking about something that could have been discussed over the phone. Locums themselves don't actually want to come in.
There you go. So next question. Am I right by saying pharmacists are exempt from charging VAT for their shifts? If so, is it tax beneficial to become VAT registered? If so, what would we be able to claim VAT back on?
No, locums are not VAT registered. There's no benefit in being VAT registered.
Yeah, and I think once you VAT register, actually, it does increase your cost.
You'd have to add that onto all your invoices.
And as far as I'm aware, I've seen some contracts with some of the pharmacy companies, and they said if you're VAT registered, you won't be able to register with them to work. So I've never ever come across a locum who is VAT registered. So if I have a salaried position and want to locum as a limited company, does the tax deduction look at total earnings from both earnings, or are they dealt with separately?
Separately. It would be separate, but we have to justify our fee as well. So for example, if you are fully self-employed and in the end, in the year, you only end up doing about £12,000 through the limited company, then when we look at it, we would know a self-assessment would have been cheaper, which we charge £299 for the self-assessment, £659 to do your limited company account, your 12-month payroll, and your self-assessment. That's all included in the £659. But if the £299 service for self-assessment would have produced either the same tax return or slightly more, but not enough to justify that extra £360 we took, then we'd have to basically refund that money back and submit it through a self-assessment. So we'd rather it just be correct from the start, just so there's no kind of like messing around at the end. Usually when you're full-time employed, it is better just to do it as a sole trader.
Okay. So what is allowed in your company business expenses? What is allowed regarding pensions for directors of the company?
Yeah, so you because you own the company, it's not beneficial tax-wise to have an employee in an employer pension. You're better off just having a private pension that you can fund through your limited company, because then you're not having to match it as the employer, because it doesn't really make sense, because both the figures are coming from your account. It's fine when you're working for one of the multiples and they're matching your pension, so they're putting extra, that is free money into your pension pot. It isn't when you're the owner of the limited company. So it is just better just to find a private pension, and you just let them know that you're funding it as an employee, of your own limited company. So the money you pay in from the limited company would be an expense that would help reduce your corporation tax. That'd be like the most tax efficient way to do it.
Okay. And I think in terms of the pensions itself, and there's a lot of questions around pensions, which ones are best to go for, you'd really need to speak to a financial advisor. So again, for that, I'll probably ask on the lounge. There's a fair few people who are really clued up on the financial advisor on pensions and which companies are the best to go with. Something I'm looking into myself as well. So I think accountants aren't really the best people to ask for about pensions advice.
We're not.
Not sure if that was part of the question that Rogi asked, but yeah, if you want to know about the actual pensions and which companies to go with for your pensions, you need to do your own research, to be honest.
In terms of expenses, though, things that you can expense legally through a limited company for locums is all of your professional subscriptions, so your GPHC, indemnity insurance, PDA, RPS payments. All of that you can pay through your limited company, and it'll help to reduce your corporation tax. On top of that, you've got things like your mileage and meal allowance. So they're quite big ones for locums because you guys do travel. So this is why, whereas at the beginning I said, say if you'd come and you said you're starting an Amazon business, why we need to think about that is because you won't have much mileage. You're literally working from one place every single day, which at the start is normally their own home. But locums, they do a lot of mileage, 10 to 15 to 20,000 miles. We've seen as high as 28,000 miles in a year. So working through your limited company, how that works is regardless of if the pharmacy is going to pay you mileage, because when they pay you mileage, it's part of your income. This mileage we're talking about is literally between yourself and your limited company. So if you did 1,000 miles in a month, business miles, you pay for them on your personal card. So typically 1,000 miles on an average car is somewhere between 150 to 200 pounds. But the legal allowance for mileage is 45 pence for the first 10,000 miles. So what that means is at the end of the month, you're able to transfer 450 pounds, 1,000 miles times 45, from your business account to your personal account and reference that as fuel. And you basically made a few £100 there. Now, the reason why it's set at 45p, because HMRC knows there's no real car that costs 45 pence a mile to run. It is because they know that you're using your personal car for business use. So they are reimbursing you not just for the mileage itself, but also the wear and tear of your car. So the fact that your brake pads are wearing out faster than they would if you didn't use it for work, your business insurance that you need to get, your brake pads, your tires, all that wear and tear on the car. So they're reimbursing you for that as well. So that's one benefit. You're making an extra bit of money through that, and through meals, they're giving you up to £30 for any shift over 8 hours, which most locums do work more than 8 hours. So on average, locums will do about 20 days in a month. 20 times 30 is £600. So you're getting £600 from the limited company every month to cover your food, which you may only spend about £60, £70 a month on meals, but that's the allowable expense. So there are a couple of the benefits that you've got through a limited company that you wouldn't have as a sole trader. As a sole trader, you're basically just saying you're working for yourself.
Okay. I think the next question is, could you give any information regarding working full-time as PAYE and then working as a locum on the side? How much does it cost for the self-employed accountants? I think we've covered this one before, isn't it?
Yeah, self-assessments are basically £299.
Okay. As a company, can I add 2 people as secretaries or 1 secretary and 1 salary negotiator? I've not come across this one before. Is there a threshold for their salaries?
The threshold for their salaries is £732 a month. So you don't have basically any, because the tax-free allowance, as long as they're not already working, is £12,500. But that's the tax-free allowance. National insurance, you would still have to pay on that. So it's better to be below the secondary national insurance threshold. So we basically set the salary to £732 a month. like this, you don't need to worry about paying national insurance on a monthly basis, because more than likely you're going to be busy, you're going to miss the deadline, you'll end up with fines. It's just more easier all around just to set the salary 732 a month. So that's the max, and minimum can be whatever you want it to be. But one, two people, it's not a problem to have on the company, and we will do 2 directors, 2 payrolls, 2 corporation tax returns, still for that 659. Anything more than that, then it would be additional cost. But 100% it's not worth it. We can still get the tax down as low as legally possible, even with just one locum on there. There's 50, 60,000 pounds. It is a good salary, and obviously better than being employed. But it's not millions of pounds, so it's not something you need a big team behind you, because once you get 3 people, HMRC would wonder what are 3 people doing in a locum business.
Yeah, so in this salary negotiator, I don't think you can pull that one off from the HMRC. I mean, most of the work, I think they know that you normally do either on the messages or you call them up. You don't need somebody else doing it for you. But
yeah, and if you delegate too much of your work out, then your salary wouldn't really be justified, because then they would wonder, what are you doing for the 732? If somebody else is negotiating your salary on your behalf and somebody else is running your diary, what exactly would you be doing? So it'd get, 2 people maximum. Any more than that, it's just going to cause problems.
Okay. Is there a bank that you recommend opening a business account with?
And not a recommendation, but most of the locums do open it up with Starling Bank, basically because 1, it's free, and 2, it's quick. You just download the app either on Apple or Android, and you apply through the app, and the account number and sort code is normally given within 2 days.
Okay. Can you claim a percentage of your home's gas and electric bills? Can I put my partner as a secretary without salary in both? Okay, so let's go with the first part of the question. Can you claim a percentage of your home's gas and electric bills?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're doing quite a bit of work from home. If you didn't do this bookkeeping and managing of your diary at home, you would never hit your target of 50, 60,000 in the first year. You'd just kind of be in a mess. You'd miss shifts, you'd book things in and forget to write them down. So you do need to dedicate a portion of your time working from home to make sure you're organized for the coming week, and you're getting to your jobs on time. You know where the location is. You've already checked out how you're going to get there, where you're going to park and whatnot. So quite a fair bit of work is done from home, and therefore you can have a home office, so you can claim a percentage of your broadband, gas, water, electricity, council tax, home insurance, building content insurance, rent, mortgage. All of that can be claimed as long as nobody in the house is claiming housing benefit.
Okay. Can I put my partner as secretary without salary to both have £150 annual tax-free Christmas meal benefit?
Wouldn't really be worth it for that, no.
Okay. I think that's all the questions that we have. Does anyone else have any other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask directly if you want. Can you shed some light on the benefit of limited company and sole trader status within and outside of the IR35?
Say that again?
Can you shed some light on benefit of limited company and sole trader status within and outside of IR35? I think what they're asking is, is it better to be on as working as a limited company or sole trader for IR35? So I think I can answer that question for you. If you're a sole trader, IR35 will really affect you, which is why Lloyds have gone with only dealing with sole traders and not limited companies, because IR35 only affects what they call it? Is it PSAs, personal service?
Yeah, providers. No, so most of the pharmacies, they've already done their assessment on locums and deemed them to be outside of IR35. So Boots, Tesco, Wells, Roland, Pharmacy to You, and you're now saying Superdrug as well. So they've already done that assessment, and any independent you can work for, being independent as much as you like. So they already deem you to be outside. So that's why it's still beneficial to work through a limited company, because you're literally saving. A locum saves typically with those at least minimum guaranteed full-time locum saving £5,000 in tax a year, but realistically it's usually more like 9, 10, 11,000 pounds a year. So it's definitely better to work through your limited company.
So that's relative to working on the same salary as a sole trader, isn't it? Just want to clarify that position.
Yeah. So if you did £50,000 and you didn't form a limited company, like for example, last week, one of the locums, he started last year, and we've had quite a few. One a couple of months ago did £52,000, and he was with a family accountant, and the accountant worked his tax bill out to be £24,000, £24,000, something like that.
Wow.
And he was shocked by it. He just thought, oh, it's something you do at the end of the year, and it would be a lot lower than that. Truth be told, he didn't know what it would be. He just thought it would be lower. We managed to get it down to, I think it was close to 17, but it was still obviously ridiculously high. If he would have contacted us a year earlier, his tax bill would have been less than 6. So, 10, 11,000 pounds extra he had to pay. But through the limited company, even if you chose to work for Lloyds or Asda, you still can. It's just not as tax efficient because you can't claim the mileage for those shifts. You can't claim the meal allowance for those shifts. It doesn't work out as good as it might seem on paper. So, they might be offering you 55 an hour. That realistically works out to be more like 36 an hour, which, you can comfortably get anyway, working for Boots or Tesco. And that way you can claim the mileage and the meal allowance on top. So it actually works out to be better than 36.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions now. So next one on pensions, how much is legally allowed for your company to contribute?
Legally, it's about up to 40,000 a year, but I don't think there is any top limit. Again, we're not experts in pensions, but it has to be justified by your turnover as well. You couldn't just have profits of £20,000 and it all went into a pension pot. I mean, I wouldn't be sure how you'd live if you did that anyway.
Okay. All the stuff you mentioned, would your accountant sort that out for you? Am I right? Iman, could you be a bit more specific exactly what you mean by all the stuff you mentioned? And you can speak directly if you want. Iman? No? Okay. Do you do tax for landlords as well as locums?
We do, through the self-assessment, because on your self-assessment, which is still covered in the same fee, your self-assessment is for you to declare all income. So even if you form the limited company, you go through the limited company route, we still have to register you for self-assessment and do self-assessment as well. But having the limited company ensures that the LTD tax is low and the self-assessment tax is low, whereas a sole trader only does self-assessment, but the tax return ends up being a lot higher because there's not as many deductions that can be legally done through a self-assessment for them. But a self-assessment is to declare all income. So even your employed income, like you've done pre-reg this year, that would still be declared on the self-assessment. Even though taxes have been paid, you're not going to get taxed twice, but a self-assessment is to declare all income received in the year. So even though HMRC is aware of how much you've earned, because RTI submissions were done to HMRC, they know exactly what you earned when you were doing your pre-reg or if you were previously employed, you still have to declare the same figures again to them, which is the gross figures before tax was deducted.
Okay. Could you explain what IR 35 is?
Sure. So basically, IR 35 is simply when you're working through a limited company, what HMRC wants to know is if they remove that limited company between you and the employer, would you now naturally become an employee of theirs? So if you were working for, let's say, Boots, and you work for Boots Monday to Saturday every single week, but through your limited company, if HMRC asks the question, if we remove this limited company from you, between you, do you naturally become an employee of theirs? In that example, you would, because you don't work for anybody else. But generally, locums will work for up to 4 or 5 different pharmacies, some independents, a couple of the multiples. It's basically who's going to offer them the best rate. That's who they're going to work for. So a typical locum, 95% of our locum, if you remove the LTD from them, do they naturally become an employee? They don't, because they're only working for Tesco that day. Tomorrow they'll work for somebody else. So that's simply put, that's what it is. If you're going to work for just one company all the time, then clearly you are an employee of theirs and you're using the limited company just to keep your tax low. If you're working for multiple pharmacies, then you would be deemed outside of IR35 because none of them would consider you to be an employee of theirs.
Okay. Can you explain what dividends are?
Yeah, sure. Before dividends, I'll just say though, IR35 has been around for over 20 years. It was only in 2017 when the public sector got brought in. So NHS now, everyone's basically inside IR35 for them. But it is because the only difference that happened was that it's now down to the employer who decides if you're inside or outside IR35. It's no longer down to the employee. Whereas back in the 90s, it was down to the employee. What HMRC found was employees naturally wouldn't put themselves inside IR35. They would consistently just say, yeah, we don't consider ourselves to be inside IR35, even though if they were assessed, they would be inside IR35. So that's only been the change, that it's now down to the employer. The reason why I'm mentioning it is it really isn't for the locum to really worry about it. You just book in your shifts and go do your work. It is for Boots to look at the pattern in which you're working for. So you may naturally start off in the hopes of working for many different pharmacies, but you may naturally find yourself just working for Boots all the time, one that's nearest to your house. They like you like working for them, and you keep on working. It is their job to then look at your shift pattern, see if there's a consistent pattern there where you look like you're working for an employee, and then for them to let you know that, look, we need a breather now. We can't continue to keep on employing you. You need to be working for other pharmacies as well. So it's not really something you need to have at the front of your mind going into work. It is for now the multiples to assess you. Okay. Dividends is basically when you've got a limited company, after you've paid your salary, after you reimburse yourself for expenses, and after the tax has been paid, the money left in the company, that is dividends. So like if we just do a quick example, let's say you did £50,000 between now and the end of next year. Then your salary is set to 732, which is 8,784. Let's just round up to 9,000. So we'll say £9,000 is your salary for the year. So that will bring your turnover from 50 down to 41. And typically, locums will have expenses of 11 to 15,000, but we'll just keep a round figure of 11. That will bring your income, your turnover down to £30,000. And now you've got to pay your taxes. So on 50K, you're looking at about £5,000 tax. Once that tax has been paid, then the money in the bank, like 25,000 that now left, that is your pure dividends. Now, people can't normally wait all the way till the end of 12 months and then access their dividend. So you are fine taking it up front. What you're basically doing is just taking it up front, your future dividends. So how that would work is on a monthly basis, what you do at the end of the month is you do first a transfer of 732. If you're full-time employed by your limited company, you'll be on salary. So you'll transfer 732 from your business account to your personal account, and you reference that as salary. The second thing you're going to do is work out what your mileage was, multiply it by 45p, and reimburse yourself for that expense. The third thing you're going to do is work out how many days you work, multiply it by 30, and reimburse yourself for that amount. Once so that typically for a locum is somewhere between £1,500 and £1,700 reimbursed salary and expenses reimbursed somewhere between 15 and 17. But typically locums earn £5,000-6,000 a month. And they may want to have access to more than that. Some don't. Some are just happy with £1,500-1,700 a month. They don't need more than that. But let's say, for argument's sake, you need another £1,000. You transfer the £1,000 from the business account to the personal account. You reference it as dividends, and you're basically dipping into your future dividends. You know, the actual dividends that can only be declared after we do your taxes, you've just taken some of that upfront. So, for example, if you did that £1,000 every single month, then at the end of the year, you've taken £12,000 upfront. Next year, we'd work out, once the tax year's ended, we would work out, and let's say we said your dividends came to 25. You've taken 12 up front. There's £13,000 worth of dividends left. Do you want to take it, or do you want to leave it in the company? And it's up to you. You could take it. You could say, I want to take 3,000. I'm going to leave 10 in the company. Whichever way you want to do it, you could take it all at that point. It's all up to yourself.
Okay. Can you put monthly car payments as an expense on the limited company?
No. Only if it's a business car lease, which is, you know, when you look at the figures, it's not worth it for a locum to do anyway. It's more tax efficient just to buy a car outright and claim the mileage. But if you've got a business car, then you can claim the mileage and any expenses for the car. But it's just, you know, after 2 years, you've got 3 years, you've got to hand that car back, and you've got literally nothing to show for it. So it's not really like financially, you know, great for yourselves, because, you know, you're just basically handing it back.
Got a question. Do you set yourself up as a limited company first, then open a business bank account? Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah,
without
you would, because when the banks do a check, there would be no company name that you're trying to register that business bank for. So the process with ourselves is we need a phone call first. We need to discuss your situation before signing you up. If we're happy with it, you're happy with it, we would then send you an email. You respond back to the email. We form the limited company for you. And within 24 hours, we'll give you the incorporation certificate. And you can then open up the business bank account. If it's with Starling, it'll be a couple of days. And you've got your account number, sort code, and then you're ready to book your shifts in.
Okay. How accessible to the locum is the money earned in the business account of a limited company?
Very accessible. It's just a matter of doing an online bank transfer from your business account to your personal account. We recommend always leaving a third of your income in the business account to cover future taxes, but also to cover your monthly expenses. So when you're renewing your GPC, if you're buying any office furniture, a little bit of clothing you're allowed to buy, you might do dry cleaning, paying for hotels if you're doing overnight stays. You know, you want to have money in the account, healthy, you know, a figure in the account to be able to cover these expenses to justify the limited company. You won't want it to be, you earn £5,000, you remove £5,000 every month, and you're just kind of getting by, because when the HMRC looks at these figures, it's not going to look like a healthy business, and they could recommend it to be struck off and you to operate as a sole trader instead if you don't run it efficiently.
Okay. Can you include your parking charges expenses? Yes, you can.
Yeah, just not parking fines.
Yeah, just parking charges are the fines.
Yeah.
I work full-time in hospital and planning to locum on the weekends fortnightly. Do I set up as a sole trader prior to locum, or once I've earned over a certain threshold, say £1,000?
But once you've gone over £1,000, you do need to legally register for self-assessment. But you may as well anyway, because you know it's only going to take a few shifts, 3 shifts to get over that figure. So why delay it? Because once you get into the swing of things, you literally can forget. You actually never registered. That's happened so many times with locums where they've been working for a year and you're like, okay, you should have formed a limited company, but what's your personal UTR number? And they're like, what's the personal UTR number? And it's like, did you not at least register for being self-employed? You know? So it is best just to do it right at the start whilst it's still on your mind.
Okay. Got a question from Sadia about basically saying you shouldn't work just for one multiple like Boots, mostly even if it's through an agency. So my advice would be just try and mix it up. Don't always stick to one company, even if it's through agency or direct. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You want to work for different companies, get a feel for what they're like, and also if anything goes wrong or Boots suddenly decides they're going to drop your wages, or they'll put someone else in, or they've just hired someone, then you've got nowhere to go. It is always best to mix it up and have a number of different companies to work for.
And you will find you will earn more money doing that. Whenever you're, competitive, when you're looking around, seeing who's giving the best rates, and you're working for them, you're developing more relationships, you're networking, you will find that your income will grow year on year. If you just stick to one, you could go to an independent and not have to worry about IR35, but you will soon see that your income will either plateau or it'll start to decline. Once you're working for the same company for a long time, they've not really got an incentive to look to pay you more. They're not going to just turn around and say, we've been giving you £40 an hour, let's move that up to 42. They'll actually look to reduce.
Yeah, as a locum, that's what normally happens. The year on year tends to go down rather than go up. Hi, a follow-up question, IR35 question. I used to locum only for an independent pharmacy on Saturdays. However, I locum as and when it's convenient to me. If I was locuming for this company more often, but on irregular basis, could I be classified as an employee or locum?
But it's an independent, so they're exempt from IR35, so they could work for them, every single Saturday. It wouldn't make a difference.
Okay. If I have 5 fixed shifts for 5 different, where did it go? Yeah, 5 shifts for 5 different companies, will I be inside or outside IR35?
Outside.
Okay. Could I claim for entertainment? What sort of entertainment, Arif? I don't get the question when you say entertainment, what is it exactly you're referring to? I don't think that'd be related to the job. But if you start a Christmas party, then I think you're allowed to make certain claims. Going out for a business meal, you can claim that as well. Going for a concert, I don't think that'd be covered. But yeah, if you could just clarify what you mean by entertainment. Do you guys use bookkeeping software like Free Agents or Xero?
So basically, we do for some of our other clients, we don't for locums. Over the years, what we found is locums, because they have to get to grips with being self-employed, which nobody's really taught them how to be. So that's kind of, negotiating rates, negotiating mileage, traveling up and down the country. That's kind of daunting enough as it is. What we normally found locums want is just simple. We just basically give them 2 simple Excel sheets. After they've done a month worth of shifts, we will set up another phone call and go through the expense sheet to show them how to get the figures on there. After that, it just takes 10 minutes at the end of each month to transfer the figures from their business bank account onto that Excel sheet and email it into us. So it's nothing fancy, but it works. It's simple. Rather than trying to learn how to use Free Agent or Xero or QuickBooks or anything like that. It's just a lot easier. Just transfer them figures, your expenses from your business bank account onto the Excel sheet. It doesn't take more than 10 minutes at the end of each month to do.
Okay. Can you claim public transport fares, for example, taxis, if you don't drive?
You can. 100% you can claim all of them. Coach, train, whatever mode of transport you get to work, you can claim for.
Okay. Would you use a personal account or business account to pay for expenses such as fuel, parking, food, etc.?
So everything should be paid for through the business. The reason would be is that you don't need to keep the receipts because your business bank statement would act as your receipt. The only 2 things you're not going to pay for through the business would be your fuel and your food because they're both reimbursed at a much higher rate. Fuel, you're getting 45 pence a mile, and food, you're getting up to £30 a day if you're doing shifts over 8 hours. So they're the only 2 things you would pay for on your personal card so that you can be reimbursed for that expense. But if you got like a £5 diary, £10 diary, you bought some stationery, you brought a mouse mat or a mouse, keyboard, anything like that, you can only be reimbursed for what the cost of it was. So if you buy a £10 diary, you're only getting £10 for it. So you may as well pay for it on the business, transfer it onto the Excel sheet as an expense, and that's it, you're done. Whereas if you bought for it personally, first you've got to transfer more money into your personal account to cover the cost. Then you've got to pay for it personally. Then you've got to keep the receipt for the item along with your personal bank statement. And then you've got to reimburse yourself for that amount. So then if you spent a £10 diary on your personal card, then you've got to transfer that money from your business card to your personal card and reference it, £10 diary. It's too much work.
Okay. can you claim for attending conferences, meals, and hotel accommodations?
Yeah, anything for work purposes. If you've got a conference to go somewhere, you can pay for the hotel, all costs related to that hotel. So every meal you have whilst away from home, the hotel might have like car parking charges for parking your car overnight. You can claim for the cost of them. So it's a business trip. All costs are covered as long as they are business related.
Okay. If you already have a UTR number from a previous self-assessment and you're new to locuming, will you need another UTR or is it the same one?
Same one. As long as it's still active and you never deregistered yourself, it'll still be the same one.
Okay. Would you only recommend setting up a limited company once leaving salaried job and locuming full-time and just work as a sole trader until then? So basically,
to be tax efficient, you'd want to form it before you do your first shift. So it all depends on how soon you can get the information together that we require. So we would say, give yourself a couple of days to get the information to us after you've spoken to us, then 24 hours for us to form the company. And then if you're going to go with Starling, then a couple of days. If you're going to go with Barclays, it could take up to 5 weeks to open up a business account. So it all depends who you're going to go with. But at least 2 weeks before your first shift, you want to get in contact and with any accountancy, whoever you sign up with, and have the company formed so that your very first shift is getting paid right into your business account and you're tax efficient right from the first penny you earn.
Okay. Yeah, so entertainment costs such as business meals and company secretary and family. Okay, a bit confused about that one. So yeah, I mean, like the business expense, if it's business meals, then yeah, that's fine. That can be covered by the company.
Just for yourself, though. So it wouldn't be like you could take your friends out for a meal. That's not a business expense. So even if you went for lunch and you went for lunch with another dispenser, you couldn't pay for their meal. It would just be your meal.
Okay. And I think that's what you meant with the family. Okay. If I'm only working part-time as a locum, 1 or 2 days a week, am I best to register as a sole trader limited company? I think that really depends on what you're projecting for the overall yearly income from your locum work.
Yeah, exactly. We've got 3 locums at the moment who in September, at the end of September, beginning of October, started a new course, the all 3 doing medicine. And when we ran their figures, it was still better for them to have a limited company, even though they're only going to work on weekends. But because they're funding the course themselves, they know they have to work every weekend. It's not a choice. And come Christmas time, they're going to work the month when they're off for Christmas, and their course finishes mid-May. So they'll work all the way till the end of September. So when you work it out, they actually, on average, will still hit close to 30,000 based on how much they've said they will work. Because they haven't got a choice. The course is quite expensive. The rent, they moved to a different city. So they've got rent to pay. They've got bills to pay. It isn't really a choice. So they'll still earn between 22 to 30,000 pounds between those 3 that we assessed just a few weeks ago. So even working 2 days a week, it depends on your situation. If it's only 2 days a week throughout the year and the busy period for locums is June, July, August, they typically do between 6,000 and 9,000 pounds a month. But we've got a locum who last month did 10,800 pounds in October. So it does vary, but typically they're your busy months. So if at that point you're able to put more shifts in, or even when you're employed and you've got 28 days and you use half of those to do locum work, you can literally earn 5,000-6,000 pounds just in that period. So you could easily cross that 18,000 even whilst being employed, and it would be more beneficial to be a limited company.
Yeah. If I'm working for this company, can you claim self-study course such as leadership skills?
Yeah. Anything that's going to help you improve. So a lot of the locals do the independent prescriber course. They can claim that. But yeah, anything that's going to help you improve, even if there's a course on negotiating, and that's going to help you hopefully command higher day rates, and get mileage and whatnot, you can claim the cost of that.
So yeah, claim for IP courses as well. Yeah, you can. So your car insurance, phone bills can all be taken. Car insurance can't be taken from this account unless it's a company car, but it's cheaper to claim the mileage. Your phone bill can be, yeah. Can IP course be? Yes, it can. When you register as a sole trader, you need to have a business name and with HMRC.
No, sole trader, you're just working for yourself, so you just registered under your own name.
So do you only ever get one UTR number from HMRC?
For a sole trader, you get one UTR number, and if you form a limited company, you'll get a company UTR number, so you'd have two.
Okay. If I work regularly for two independent chemists, should I work as a sole trader or limited? Again, it depends on how much you earn. It's not which companies you have, whether it's independent or multiple. It really depends on your overall yearly income. Like I said, if it's over 18,000, then it's cheaper to be a limited company. And if it's less than 18, better for being a sole trader. Does business account have to be a current account? Business accounts usually are, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Basically, the reason why you want it to be a business account and not just a general current account is because the level of income that's going to go through that account. So at the beginning, you might have a couple of thousand going the first month, but by the second month, third month, when all that income starts to come through, you've got payments of £300-400 coming in virtually every single day. And soon enough, they would freeze that account because it would look like suspicious activities happening. Is it money laundering? They wouldn't know what's going on because you're just using a personal account. But when you register it when you open up a business account, you're already expecting lots of transactions to happen. So then you won't ever have an issue. That's mainly the risk, having the account frozen and then having to prove where the money's come from.
Okay. Can you claim for eye tests if needed and to wear new glasses?
No, you wouldn't, because it's got a dual purpose to it. Them glasses or the eye test is not just purely for locum, and outside of locum, your vision's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I use my personal bank account as limited company? Is not fully set up yet, and what implications? Okay, so yeah, the business account isn't fully set up. Can they use their personal account until?
They can for a short period of time. It is justifiable. HMRC does understand, especially in this climate, that a business account can't be opened up straight away. And even some of our locums that registered a week or 2 weeks ago, they've still not got the business account open. They tried with Starling said no. Then they went to Monzo said no. Then I think they opened up with Revolut in the end. So you can hit a few issues, and it can take a little bit of time to open it up. The only thing is, you would then have to print out your personal bank statement, black out all your other personal transactions, and then keep that personal bank statement with your business bank statements, because up to 6 years HMRC can audit you. So you would need to keep, print those personal bank statements out. Just blank out anything that's personal on there. Just leave the locum income highlighted, and you will have to keep that for 6 years.
Okay. Can I use personal bank account? I think we answered that one already. Can you open an interest-free business bank account? I think you'd have to speak to the bank, because what they do is, I know with Lloyds, I asked them this question and they just said, well, we can stop paying you interest in your account. I think you just have to write to them, and then it's just they won't pay you any interest on whatever's in the account. And I think if you want a business, does Al Rayyan do a interest-free business account? Do you know?
I don't know if they do, but with all the major banks, that interest, if you do freeze it and say, I don't want the interest, they do just pocket it themselves. You are better off just doing
it. Yeah. Right. If you want to contact him directly, we'll leave you his number. I'll actually post his contact number here for everyone to write down. But I will send out with anyone who's registered, they will get an email with his contact details. Or if you message me on Telegram, I can send it to you directly as well. Is there a legal deadline until you have to register as a sole trader?
Usually within the 3 months, it's recommended once you start earning money, because otherwise you can get into a grey area about which point were you going to let HMRC know that you are receiving untaxed money. So it is recommended within the first 3 months.
Started locuming 6 months ago. Is it too late to transfer to a limited company and file as that at the end of the year?
Basically, it's like car insurance. You couldn't get it after an accident, So it is they literally timestamp it down to the second, so they would know exactly when the limited company is formed. But it's like, if you continue doing it as you're doing as a sole trader, then next year expect, like I've said, £16,000 tax bill. So if you're at halfway at the moment and you're up to 8, then it does make sense still to form that limited company to help reduce how much you're going to end up paying. So it's never too late unless you're literally in the 11th month. Then maybe it's a bit too late, but 6 months is still 6 months.
Okay, cool. Right, it's gone past 6 now. We're supposed to keep it for an hour. If you have any more questions, we will be doing more of these sessions with Imran. We've got another one coming up with Gorilla as well, another one of our accountancy partners. But we do upload these videos on YouTube, and we leave their contact numbers as well. So if you've got any questions, you can get a hold of Imran directly. And for those that want to get a hold of Imran directly, you can get a hold of him on this number, 07850 952 814. Okay, so I'm just going to send the number to everyone. Oh no, I'll just send it to one person. Sorry. I'll send it to everyone. Command V. Right, so that's Imran's number. It's 0 before the 7. Will there be no locuming? We have got some webinars that we've done in the past. Have a look on our website. So this is for Rosalba. Have a look on our website. We have got webinars about locuming, and you can also check on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel as well. Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, cool. Right, guys. I'll post this video on my YouTube channel and I'll share it across the network as well. If you've got any questions, you can get hold of Imran directly on the number I've just shared on the messages, and I'll put it on the YouTube channel, on the YouTube video itself. I'll put his number out. So, yeah, have a good evening, and see you guys in the network.